There was a time in Mullah Nasruddin's life when he worked as an office clerk. But one day he got up from his desk and was missing for 3 weeks. When he came back, the manager called him into his office and said, "Mullah, you cannot just get up and disappear like that." Well, the mullah said, "Well, I came into your office to ask for 3 weeks holiday and you weren't there. But I saw the sign on your desk which said, 'Do it now,' so I did." The Zen master Hakuin was the abbot of a monastery during the time when the shoguns ruled in the land of the rising sun. But there were so many warlords and wars going on that many of the samurai found themselves without a lord to serve, so they became rogue samurais, wandering around the streets of the city, finding an excuse to accost people so they could test the sharpness of their swords by cleaving them in two. Now it so happened that the great Zen master Hakuin had a servant who had been a servant in the monastery since he was a young boy. He'd never been tonsured or taken the monk's vow, being content to be a servant of the great master himself. But one day, Master Hakuin sent his servant on an errand to the city. But before he went, the monks warned him, "Do not go in the night time, because there are those rogue monks, those rogue samurais who are wandering the streets looking for an excuse to kill people." But the servant insisted, No, I'll be all right." So he set out, and of course he arrived at the city at dusk. And just as he was walking down an alleyway, someone bumped into him, and a voice hissed, "You touched me with your sleeve. Now I'm going to kill you." And the servant looked, and there was a samurai standing in front of him with his sword raised above his head. Immediately, the servant dropped to his knees 3 times and bowed his head on the ground. The samurai was totally nonplussed and said, "You're a very strange fellow," and turned around and stomped away. But it so happened that there was a merchant who had taken a room in an inn nearby, and he was able to witness this whole scene. One moment he hid behind the shutters, and another he couldn't take his eyes of what was transpiring in the street below. But after the samurai had gone, the merchant couldn't help himself. He dashed down out into the street and himself accosted the servant and said, "How did you do that? I thought for certain you were going to be a dead man." And the servant said, "Well, I've been a servant in the monastery since I was a boy, and I have witnessed every day, day after day, all of the monks bowing on their knees 3 times before placing their head on the ground before they undertake any task. So when I saw the samurai with the sword above his head and knew I was facing my death without thinking. Automatically, I fell to my knees 3 times and bowed my head on the ground. What's the significance of this story for you? What does it mean? We see the Christians make the sign of the cross and so forth. We see, and even ourselves have our rituals before undertaking a task. What is the significance of falling to our knees 3 times and bowing our head on the ground?
You give up your own will and your own thing, and you sort of submit to the universe and what is done.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Iñaki.
And it's not like what we think how it should be.
No, it's not how we think it should be.
He's willing to die so he doesn't have to.
Yes.
Often if you are willing to do whatever it is, you don't actually have to.
Exactly. And what does this ritual mean for us, this act of surrender on the 3 levels of life? On the 3 levels of life. The nitty-gritty level, the cause and effect level, the level of spirit, and the sublime level of oneness. The 3. Surrendering on all of those 3 levels, and the significance of putting our head on the ground.
Bringing the 3 levels together,
Absolutely.
raising them all.
Absolutely. Just like in our sayings, may all beings be happy, peaceful and blissful. The 3 levels of existence. The 3 ohms, 3s that we know.
He didn't have to do anything.
He didn't have to do anything.
He didn't. There was no need to surrender or anything
No.
because it was going to happen anyway. He'd just seen it happen.
Exactly.
You don't have to worry.
Exactly. Exactly. Look at the rituals in your life. How is it that we do surrender, even when we know there's nothing out there to surrender to, although we might call it fate or the divine will or whatever? What's your ritual? What is it that you do? Habit. Right. Without thinking, automatically.
Made no difference whether it was life or death.
Right. Right. An indication of where we're at, isn't it?
Shake your fist at it anyway.
Thank you, thank you.